We handle a topic weekly. This time round, the country is on tension. Every parent is looking around. Everyone is on tension over something that has woken up everybody. Publicly, it started with the Deputy Speaker of Parliament, who talked about something that there was a story in a school, and he also talked about one of the local governments where he suspected a bylaw to have been passed, recognizing issues to do with, somebody would call it sodomy, LGBT, homosexuality. But what is the tension about? What is going on? And how can we stop it anyway? That is, if we can stop it. I have a gentleman on this show. He has been before courts of law. And he narrowly survived prison, actually, because of trying to fight this very problem. We want to get to know more on how it can be stopped, who has to do what in this fight, in order to have a clean country, clean schools, and clean communities here in Uganda. His name is Pastor Martin Semper. We are going to share a lot with him in this small 1 hour. Pastor, we're so glad to have you.
Thank you, Jordan.
Yes, how are you doing?
We are well.
How is Nakauka?
Nakauka is well. There's a way in which I feel like saying that I told you so. You know, one of the challenges of people who are ahead of their time, they live in the future, or you decide to live in the future to warn your people about what is coming. So for some, this thing is almost coming so suddenly. You know, it's like this issue of homosexuality is coming from everywhere. You're hearing the deputy speaker talking about the problem in schools. You're hearing a problem in Kasese, as a town authority being told to do a bylaw. You are seeing videos on WhatsApp in increasing measures. You are seeing stories in schools. You're hearing of a major cover-up. You're seeing young men who are leaders in fashion, like Ebrians, but modeling, you know, transgenderism. You're hearing the Pope talking about how we should change homosexuality not to be a crime, but it should be tolerated. All of these things, for some people, it's coming suddenly and it's overwhelming. And I do realize that, and I sympathize with people.
Is it not sudden to you?
No.
How did you get to know about this problem before everybody of us got their eyes opened like it is now?
Well, first of all, homosexuality has existed in individual deviants. You know, every society has its individuals who are deviants, whether they are in jail, whether they are, you know, freaks. Well, we all, you know, on a continuum, you know, of normal, of abnormal to normal, good, you know, good and bad. Yeah, there is a continuum where you have some exceptions to the rule. So we've had them, the Arabs that used to trade here, the Chris Movie Rouge. We do have our exceptions. Yes. But we've not had it as a mainstream where there is an entire shift where they are saying that now we flip things around and we say now the bad things
becomes part of the right
thing. So it's at that point where especially from Barack Obama, he was elected in 2008. Okay, it's with the coming of Barack Obama, the coming of David Cameron, the of those European leaders whose major goals as political leaders was to use their political states as a bully pulpit to impose homosexualism onto the whole world. So that's when it began to become a state of emergency, or, you know, because it became a state issue. Freaks, deviance, abnormalities become state issues. But it's been gestating for a while. Now, I have just written a book. I've written a 400-page book right here called Africa's Resistance to Homosexuality. and I call it Obama's Euro-American LGBT aggression and the rise of Uganda's anti-homosexuality law. I would call it the rise and fall of the Uganda's anti-homosexuality law. So when we passed the law, when we pushed, I was part of the people who were saying, let's protect our children. Let's defend them. I went to America. I married a wife from America, a young woman I met from Wandegea. She was an American. So when I went to ask her parents to allow me to marry, I got to know about America. And when I was in America, I saw that there's something really wrong. So when I came back and warned my people, I knew something was wrong. But anyway, in this book, I have spent time researching, tracing the roots of this conflict, where it came from. I've taken time to see how African states and people have responded, the rise of the anti-homosexuality law, why it was brought down, and the lessons that we learned out of it. So in doing this research, I've come up with a lot of us know this is wrong. I mean, Jordan, it's obvious. A man is not a woman. Yes. A woman is not, it is obvious. Sodomy is evil. You can't have a Sodomy wedding. But then you wonder, why isn't the police doing anything? Why aren't the politicians doing something? Why isn't the parliament doing something? Why are schools being infiltrated? In this book, I'm able to analyze and show you why people are talking what we call ludicha. I don't know what to say that in English.
Twisted language.
Twisted languages. Ludicha, because the system is being penetrated, the system is being compromised, the system is being attacked. But do not, mark my words, Jordan. This battle, we either win it or we are lost. Because when you look at Europe, you look at Canada, you look at America, you look at South America, many of these nations have lost it. They have lost their children. If you look at the outcomes, the life out, South Africa. South Africa is a good example of an Africa.
It's no longer penetration?
No.
The vice has taken over.
Taken over. You look at South Africa has become the capital of HIV in the world. It's the capital. It's the capital of murders. It's the capital of rape. It's a capital of abuse of young men and into sodomy. It's a capital where homosexuals who are rich, in the world, they go to look for poor young boys and molest them. So this is a major, major problem. So when I say, I feel like I'd said, I told you, there's a part in which...
That's where I want.
Yeah.
You told us.
Yeah.
You hinted something that when you went to marry in the US, that's when you noticed something. Yeah. But here in Kampala, you were vocal with some other pastors, Pastor Malay, Pastor Michael Chaze. The three of you were vocal. Yeah. How did you get to notice what the rest of us, 40 million and above, are coming to take seriously many years later?
Well, it has to do with the fact that I'm an HIV/AIDS specialist. Yes. My work as an HIV/AIDS amongst young people exposed me increasingly to policy formulation. It exposed me to the Western world. So I was involved in conferences, whether San Francisco, Philippines, Manila, Mexico. I got to come in touch with, in my work as an HIV/AIDS specialist, I got to come close to the Europeans and how they were very determined to use HIV/AIDS as a tool to normalize homosexuality all over the world. And I remember, Jordan, I was in, I think it was 2004, 2005, I was in Washington, D.C., and this was the days of President George W. Bush. He was interested in Uganda's ABC strategy, the abstinence
against HIV,
being faithful in marriage, that's behavior change, and then use condoms. So I was invited to speak in the area as a specialist in abstinence and being faithful. So I remember sharing about how Uganda had turned the epidemic around through the use of this social behavior change. And I remember these people got annoyed at me Jordan, the more I spoke, I said, you know, like for us in Uganda, they said, Uganda, we've seen you. You used to be at 23% seroprevalence. You've been bringing it down to 14, to 10. Now you went to 6, then you went to 4. You know, we were a success story. They said, tell us how we did it. Then I said, look, we promoted being faithful in marriage. We promoted sexual abstinence. And this use of condom as a minor. So these people got annoyed. The more I would talk, the more you could see them getting annoyed. This is 2003, 2004, Jordan. Yes. They're like, don't bring morality here. Don't bring your faith in this thing. Don't bring these things here. And keep it away. Just give people pharmaceutical products, condoms, ARVs. Do not talk about sexual delay. So I noticed increasingly that there was a theoretical conflict. When President Museveni went for the World HIV AIDS in Manila and also spoke, I don't know, it was about 2000 around the time, again, the quote unquote activists, don't bring us abstinence, don't bring us being faithful, those are killers. And I noticed that the AIDS activists of the West were mostly homosexuals, because the epidemic in the Western world was driven amongst the homosexual groups. And because their organizations, such as UNAIDS, Global Fund, PEPFAR, these are the funding agencies, were led by homosexuals, then these people decided that they were going to use the campaign of HIV AIDS as an excuse to promote what? Homosexualism. And they were very successful in America. They were very successful in Europe, because what happened was that the HIV AIDS hotline became the gay hotline. The HIV AIDS activist was the gay activist. Then you could not tell the difference between the two. So whenever you said, let's fight HIV, then the homosexual would say, yeah, let's normalize what? LGBT. So now those people come here to Africa, and they decided that they want to use HIV AIDS as a tool. Now, many of us know about this issue, but a lot of us do not have the evidence. They say, tell us the what?
The evidence.
So,
prove.
In the time that I have been doing the research, I was able to do a research and discovered that actually in 2003, 2004, there is a conference that was so significant in South Africa, Johannesburg. It was called the All Africa HIV Human Rights Symposium. It was on 14th February 2004. So I got the official report. One of the things, they gathered all the homosexuals in Africa. They brought them together with European donors and specialists, and they actually mapped out how to use HIV AIDS as a tool to impose homosexuality. Now, they drew up a manifesto. This is like Berlin Conference. They drew up a manifesto in 2004, and then they said, what do we want? They cut Africa into 3 parts: East Africa, West Africa, and Southern Africa. So then they said, how do we want to change society in the category of society, law and human rights, and the religion and culture, for example. In society, we want to eliminate fear. We want to integrate with society as gays, to be part of society. An educated society with raised awareness on on LGBT, targeting of leadership and policy makers. This is why you see Freddie, this gentleman, the one who received the Kennedy Foundation, Frank Mugisha, is always going to the Ministry of Health, is talking to this one. He's in Kenya, he's in Rwanda, he's there. They are targeting the leaders. Education and influence over the media. This is why you see policies of houses that are being changing, different other houses. I may not mention it, but there's changes in the Nation Media Group. There's changes in the New Vision Media Group, where there is strategic changes that are made to cover this issue of homosexuality from a positive perspective, that is in the Nation Media, but also do not share the information in the Nation Media Group. Then education and LGBT mobilized to come out. Why are you seeing groups coming out? They are mobilizing them to come out. Law and human rights, advocacy on human rights lobbying for all human rights, including LGBT. So now whenever you hear human rights, it used to be Sewanyana is it Sewanyana? Yes, used to be, yeah, he would fight for real human rights. But now all human rights groups are about what? Homosexuality.
Why do you say that, Pastor? All of them?
Most of them, they have changed there because it's a policy, religion and culture, greater awareness of gay issues, tolerance and accepting of LGBT people, change in the stand, a theological stand to accept LGBT as much as that are children of God created in the image of God. Religious institution involved in bringing about a change in attitude to LGBT worship groups. When you see the Pope of the Catholic Church, when you see the Archbishop of Canterbury coming out and promoting, it is because it is on a work plan. Then there is new churches now. There's a young man who called me from Makerere. He's called Ram, Pastor Ram. He told me he's starting a church of gay affirming. Now, this is a well-organized program. Don't just say it wasn't, you can say it's a conference, but it was funded. It was who gave commitment to support? The World Bank. There's a gentleman called Hans Binswanger. He was working for the World Bank. He was the one who was the muzungu bwebwongo bwacho brain. Nagamba kati sente za World Bank tugambe nti zituuka ku basiyazi naye tuba tukola tugambe nti sente ziteeke mu abasiyazi beekolemu omulimo. That is why you begin to see specific money for LGBT in every area, in the World Bank, in the PEPFAR, in the Global Fund. Now they keep saying, but what about the homosexuals? So now we are at a point where
they must be also included on all
in every area. Ka program yawe. Then the Dutch NGOs, they were there also pushing this. So what I have done is that I have been able in this book, in the research, to document with evidence to show that these people sat down at a specific, because a conspiracy, what is a conspiracy? A conspiracy is a group of people sitting down, setting a plan and putting it into motion.
Design how to execute it.
Exactly. What did they actually plan? They planned to overthrow government. They planned to overthrow the culture. They planned to overthrow the
systems in all
areas. And then they decided, there's a session called using HIV/AIDS as a tool to normalize LGBT. Now, in that session, they decided that they will it is very difficult to say we are bringing the gay, we are bringing the gay program. Yes. They said, no, let us use HIV/AIDS as a platform to normalize. So call everybody, LGBT group, call them what? Gay HIV activists or human rights defenders. Okay. So
are you saying most of the groups that we see as HIV activist groups or human rights defenders have a connection?
80%. 80%.
What evidence is there?
I have it here. The recent groups that government saw at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, just Internal Affairs, just released a list. Simanya Kuchu Shaina, Simanya Who, Simanya Men of the Night, what. Now, most of these groups exist as quote unquote HIV, but really what is their work? To promote homosexuality.
Let us now come back home. You see, I asked a question and you gave me an international picture which is very clear and understandable. But I'll repeat, here at home, you were among the first people that detected the problem. What indicators showed you this problem to even come out vibrant as you were? Many of us are coming out now. All the 40 million people, Ugandans, are coming out now. The few of you came out very long ago. What indicators woke you up to wake up everybody like you tried to do? Well, here in Uganda.
In Uganda, I gotta say there was a UNAIDS country representative. His name was I just forget.
Because today people are saying, looking at the issues in schools, issues in universities, what woke you up?
So there was a young man called George Owundo. You see, you have to follow the money. You have to follow the what? Or follow the cream. Now, I just saw the other video where these old people sodomizing boys, and you could see what you didn't see was the bottle that they were using of the cream to sodomize. I don't know if you saw that video. It's a very disgusting video.
I've not watched it.
I will show it to you. It's very painful. It shows young people who are participating in acts of sodomy. They're about 18, 19, 20. And then they bring in young kids who are 3, who are 4, young boys. And then they introduce them to those acts. First of all, they get them to lick their body parts, and then they turn onto them to do sodomy. It's a video, when you watch it, you cry. You cry, Jordan. Because you see, homosexuals like to always keep us in abstract form. They never want us to talk about it in its reality.
Yes.
So, on this issue of homosexuality, I began by seeing people like that one. One of it was George Owundo. George Owundo came out, I believe it was in 2008-9, with Paul Kagaba, and said, guys, you people better wake up. We are being funded to go into schools, to recruit, and we are doing this underground. You people don't know. This is what he says. In my book, I write about George Owundo, account of a group called Queer Youth Uganda. He says, under Queer Youth Uganda, we scheduled school outreach projects where all members had to go back to their former high schools and spread the knowledge of homosexual rights, homosexual dating, homosexual teaching, and distributing condoms and anal sex lubricants. We were also to encourage more young boys to join us. I knew that our project would not be welcome formally in schools, so we used underground means. Under what?
Underground.
Bachiisa wansi. Bachiisa musente, bachiisa wansi. But positive results were noted. We also formed solidarity groups meant to reach the entire nation, and strategies were laid to make this happen. Owundo admits that he knew that their immoral efforts of recruiting other youth would be opposed. Underground means illegal, dark, morally unacceptable means of advancing homosexuality. They had money. Another one who is a young lady called Sandra. She was from Masaka. She's one of the girls I also ministered. She was a lesbian who was thrown out from Ntinda. There was a major hub in Ntinda. She got pregnant. You know, they like both women and boys. First she was with girls, then she went with the guy. Guy made her pregnant. Then the lesbian threw out. So she came to my home for help. And this is what she told me. She says, I was in senior 4 when members from Sexual Minorities Uganda wrote to our school's Interact Club. They were inviting us for a 3-day conference on sexual and reproductive health. We did not know who they were, but they promised free lunch and transport allowances. So we couldn't miss. We listened to the conference was at Bwala Conference Center, was attended by around 20 schools from around Masaka. We listened to testimonies of men who claimed they were meant to be women. Olaba, confusion. And it was normal for them to be attracted to other men. There was an interactive session afterwards, and these people talked to some of us privately. I found everything interesting and promptly decided to get to know more. I kept in touch with 3 ladies who stayed in Ntinda. Every now and then, I escaped from the boarding school to stay with them. Now, they used to give a transport allowance, 500,000 per person.
Wow.
Jordan.
A good figure for a
Jordan. And I want you people here who are watching to know the problem. You have a group of people who are having a lot of money to recruit your children. And the number one tool they are using, number one, money, food. And then they recruit you and they confuse you. You can be a man in a woman's body. You can be a woman who likes other women. Bichi, 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 bichi. There is a lot of confusion. So this was 2008. 2007 when I had this thing. They disturbed me. And Jordan, because of that, I began to speak loud. I began to try to help them. But it is, to have a Riamabino. Jordan, the truth is, when you have these secrets, you are a person who is a threat. They must destroy you if you have the evidence. If you know the video that I have, that video I'm telling you, if you see that video, because that video will land all those people in jail because they are pedophiles. So what? They seek to destroy you. They seek to demonize you. They seek to mock you. They seek to imprison you. Jordan, I've suffered. I've suffered my finances. I've got the worst public relations in Uganda or in the world. Why? All Hollywood gays, all Washington homosexuals, all Europeans, they decided to seek to destroy me. And personally, if you Google my name, you just go and Google Martin Semper. You will see how they make me look like I may kill the gays. They call, when you refuse homosexual agenda, they say you want to kill them. You know, these guys are very evil, and most people are afraid to be labeled as what? Killers. Because they use manipulation. Oh, if you refuse me to be a homosexual, I'll kill myself. But because it's a manipulation. So I have really suffered much when we pushed and I've lost my finances. And those of you who are there, who are watching this program, you may say, our pastor was talking.
Okay, this is how they describe you on Google as we take a break. Martin Semper is a Ugandan pastor, activist, and the founder of the Makerere University, Makerere Community Church. He referred to himself as Pastor Dr. Martin Semper.
Mokare. I have my degrees.
But now calls himself Gabriel Baba Gwanga Muje.
My new name. Yes. But if you just look all the way down.
Do you refer to yourself or you are a doctor?
I am. But this mokare, omanya abasiyazi bajerega ne bakuvuma kirabe toyina waka ate killer ne baku ate kati when people don't know. By the way, I want everyone to know that whenever this issue comes out, do not believe the first story. Because in that story, the victim will be made to look like the bad person, and the bad person will be made to look like the victim, and they will make the police to arrest.